Unaware his wife secretly inherited $500 million and owned the bank, husband canceled her cards and starved her and their kids to buy a luxurious car for his mistress. The next morning, the bank revelation destroyed him. He didn't just starve his own family, he did it with the same hands that once promised to protect them. It happened at the grocery store checkout under the cold fluorescent lights, with two little children holding onto the sides of the cart. Anna Collins, the quiet wife who lived modestly by choice, slid her bank card to pay for milk and bread, only to watch the screen flash the word "declined" again and again. The cashier looked at her with pity. Strangers avoided her eyes, and her children, they didn't understand why dinner might not happen that night. Both cards she tried were controlled by the same man, her husband, through a joint account he managed from his phone. He had cut them off with a few clicks, without warning, without a word. At home, the fridge held nothing but leftovers and a single apple. When Anna called her husband, Mark, hoping there was a simple mistake, he answered with a voice colder than the empty refrigerator behind her. "I canceled your cards. You spend too much. Learn to budget." He hung up without caring what his words did to her, without caring that she now had two hungry kids looking up at her, without caring that just hours earlier, he had drained their visible savings to secure a luxury car for another woman. A mistress who sent him kiss emojis while Anna cut sandwiches into shapes to hide how little food was left. What Mark didn't know was this: the woman he had humiliated, abandoned, and financially strangled was the secret heir to the largest share of the regional bank chain that held his accounts and handled the payment for his new car. And the next morning, when Mark stormed into that same bank demanding his rights, he had no idea the woman sitting at the long executive table, calm, quiet, steady, was not just his wife. She was the bank's newly activated majority owner, with full authority already in her name. The same woman whose cards he canceled, the same woman whose children he starved, the same woman he thought was powerless. This isn't just a story about a declined card. It's about what happens when a man gambles his family's future against a woman he never truly understood. Dear viewers, thank you for being here. If you watch without subscribing, it's like leaving Anna alone in that grocery line all over again. Quiet, unprotected, underestimated. When you subscribe, you stand with every woman who stayed kind, stayed patient, stayed loyal, until the day she finally rose. The first sound in the room was the sharp crack of a pen hitting the table. Anna Collins, 32, quiet, graceful, and freshly grieving, flinched as it rolled toward her. Her lawyer, Mr. Grant, had not meant to startle her. He was simply overwhelmed by the weight of the documents lying between them. The room felt too bright, too clean for the kind of truth she was being asked to carry. Papers marked with her late father's name, Thomas Harding, were spread out like pieces of a puzzle that could change a life forever. And they had. Anna sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, her long brown hair falling over one shoulder. Her eyes, swollen from crying for days, drifted from one page to another. Every sheet was a reminder that her father, a man the world barely knew, had held more power than most banks dared to imagine. What she was signing was not a simple inheritance. It was control over the very bank chain her family had lived quietly behind for decades. Her father had never been a loud man. At 56, he passed unexpectedly, leaving behind no mansion, no luxury cars, no public reputation. But behind closed doors, he was the largest silent investor in the regional bank chain, an empire hidden behind modest clothes and simple habits. In Anna's earliest memories, he never bragged about success. Instead, he taught her how wealth should behave. She remembered sitting beside him at the kitchen table when she was only 9. He held a financial newspaper in one hand and a slice of toast in the other. "You see this?" he had said gently, circling numbers with a pencil. Money is loud for the insecure, but real power is quiet. She had watched him carefully, absorbing every word like a child watching the stars. He would teach her how to read charts, balance sheets, and bank reports the same way some fathers taught their children to ride a bike. Their bond was built on truth, perspective, and a strange kind of secrecy he believed protected them. And now all of it belonged to her. Her hand trembled as she picked up the pen again. Mr. Grant, mid-40s, calm voice, her father's trusted advisor, leaned forward. This last page makes it official, he said. Anna, once you sign this, you become the majority owner. The shares transfer to you today. But remember the terms. Your father required that everything stays private. Your voting rights and public role stay on hold until you sign the final activation documents. He tapped a thin sealed envelope at the edge of the file. These you can choose to sign later, whenever you feel ready. Until then, only the board and I know the full truth. Anna swallowed hard. I understand. You will inherit roughly 500 million, he added gently, knowing the number still frightened her. Most of it is in bank shares and long-term structures, not cash in a regular account. And when you activate this, he nodded toward the envelope, you will hold full authority on the bank's board. She nodded, but her eyes drifted to the window. She didn't feel rich. She felt empty. Mr. Grant continued, your father believed you'd use this wisely. He wanted you to have a life defined by character, not money. A soft memory flickered, her father standing in the yard the day she turned 18. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Never judge people by their bank accounts, Anna. Judge them by who they are when they think no one is watching. She wondered if he knew, even then, how much she would need that lesson. When she finally placed her signature on the last inheritance page, the pen stroke felt heavier than anything she had ever done. She was no longer simply Anna, the gentle girl who chose simple clothes, the woman who believed in love more than wealth, the daughter shaped by humility. She was Anna Harding Collins, heir to a fortune large enough to shift entire communities. She already carried her husband's last name, Collins, after their quiet wedding a few years earlier. Together they were raising 2 young children at home while Mark worked full-time. Yet she wanted none of the spotlight. She wanted a normal life, one where she married for love and raised children without them feeling the shadow of her family's name. Mark knew she came from a decent family, but not that her father owned the bank chain behind their local branch. At Anna's request, her father had kept things discreet. Their joint day-to-day accounts were simple customer accounts in Mark's name and hers, nothing that looked special on the surface. As the papers were gathered, Mr. Grant gave her a long, careful look. Before you leave, he said, voice lower than before, I need you to hear something. Anna looked up, unsure. He hesitated, then offered the warning her father once whispered to him. Money doesn't change people. It reveals them. Please, be careful who stands close to you. The air seemed to freeze. At that time, Anna had no reason to fear anyone. She was in what she believed was a loving marriage with Mark Collins, her 28-year-old husband. Charming, hardworking, humble. A man who admired her simplicity, who said he felt peaceful around her, who loved that she didn't care about expensive things. He told her once that she was pure-hearted. To Anna, he was safe. To Anna, he was home. She offered Mr. Grant a small, tired smile. Mark isn't like that. He values honesty. Her lawyer didn't argue. He only nodded, collected the documents, and slid them into a thick envelope. He placed the sealed activation set, the one with her father's letter on top. Keep these somewhere safe, he said. You may decide you never need them, but if someone ever tries to take advantage of you, Anna, remember that you are not powerless. Anna stood, smoothing her dress, steadying her breath. As she walked to the door, her reflection caught her eye in the glass. A woman holding power she never asked for. And as she stepped out of the office, a small, quiet thought brushed through her mind, almost like a whisper. If people reveal their true selves, when will I see his? A question she didn't yet understand, but soon would. The sound hit the house like a sudden thunderclap, a chair crashing to the floor. Anna Collins, now 35, snapped her head toward the living room just in time to see her husband, Mark, pacing with sharp, restless steps. His jaw was tight, his shoulders tense. His shirt half untucked from another long day at work. Their daughter Lily, 8 years old, bright and gentle, jumped at the noise, and their son Noah, 5, curious and sensitive, pressed closer to his mother's leg. For a moment, the scene looked like a storm gathering in the middle of an otherwise peaceful home. Sorry, Mark muttered, forcing a smile too quickly. Long day. But the way his hands trembled slightly, it didn't feel like normal work stress. It felt like something heavier, something Anna couldn't name yet. She steadied her children with a reassuring touch, her voice soft. It's okay. Why don't you two go finish your drawing? Lily led Noah toward the play corner, whispering gently to him. The house slowly softened again, but the sharpness of Mark's earlier frustration hung in the air like a shadow. The intensity faded, giving way to a gentle rhythm. Anna moved to tidy the fallen chair, her movements calm, practiced. Years of marriage had taught her how to absorb pressure without letting it spill into her children's world. Her life with Mark had always been simple, warm, and modest. By choice, she had kept her inherited wealth untouched. The bank shares were locked in long-term structures under her maiden name, Harding. She still worked part-time at a small office, cooked most evenings, and drove an old sedan without complaint. She never flashed jewelry, never hinted at the power her name quietly carried in the financial world. She wanted a home built on love, not money. She had 2 beautiful children, a modest house, and routines that felt safe. At least, they used to. As she placed the chair upright, she glanced at her children. Lily laughed at something Noah said, their drawings scattered around them like little worlds made of color and innocence. Watching them always softened Anna's heart. Her daughter had her calm spirit. Her son had her father's curious eyes. The sight filled her with a deep contentment. This was the life she wanted to protect. But underneath that peace lived a locked secret. In the bedroom behind her jewelry box was a wooden drawer that only she had the key to. Inside was a single file marked "Final Approval Pending." She hadn't opened it in years. It contained the last stage of her inheritance, documents that would give her full activation rights over everything her father left her, including direct control over the bank's board. She didn't need it. She didn't want it. She wanted to build a life based on trust. Her father had allowed this. His will gave her room. She could delay taking an active position for as long as she wished. So she chose to live as if they were an ordinary family. Mark believed he was the sole provider, and she had allowed it. He handled their visible accounts, their bills, their budgeting. Their joint salary account and savings sat in the same bank her father once owned a controlling share of, now hers, though Mark only saw it as the closest convenient branch. He believed she came from a simple, ordinary background, and she let him believe it because simplicity brought her peace. But lately, something inside that peace had begun to shift. As the children colored and the house settled, Anna stepped into the kitchen to check the time. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A message from Mark. She wiped her hands and opened it. Working late again. Don't wait up. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in confusion. Mark had already come home earlier, pacing and tense. Why was he saying he would be working late when he was already here? She checked the timestamp. The message had been sent just before he walked in and knocked over the chair, while he was still outside, still deciding what version of his day he would hand to his family. Anna read the message twice, once for the words, once for what the words didn't say. She replayed the last few weeks in her mind. He had started coming home at strange hours. He kept his phone on silent. He had begun locking the screen quickly whenever she walked by. He showered the moment he entered the house. He complained more often about bills, even though they lived modestly and rarely spent on extras. Little things, scattered pieces. Nothing dramatic, nothing she could point to directly. But small changes are sometimes the loudest warnings. When Mark re-entered the kitchen, his face brightened too quickly again. Everything okay? She nodded with a soft smile. Yes, just tired. He leaned in to kiss her cheek. The gesture was familiar, but the energy behind it felt colder than it used to be. His eyes didn't settle on hers. His hands didn't linger. For the first time since their wedding day, Anna felt a strange emptiness form between them. She didn't mention the text. She didn't ask why he pretended to be somewhere else. She didn't ask why his temper was rising more often. Instead, she watched him walk to the living room, phone in hand, shoulders slightly hunched. Not like a man carrying normal stress, but like a man carrying secrets. She exhaled slowly, her hand brushing over the counter. As she did, her fingers touched her key ring. The small golden key, the one that opened the locked drawer, glinted briefly in the soft kitchen light. A quiet voice whispered inside her memory, her father's voice. Be careful who stands close to you. She pushed the thought away, forcing a breath of calm into her lungs. But as she returned to her children, a deep, unsettling truth tugged at her. Something in her life was shifting, something she couldn't yet see, but soon would. And later that night, when she checked her phone again, another message from Mark waited. One that would raise the first real question in her heart. The slam of the front door shook the entire hallway. Anna jumped, her heart thudding against her ribs as Mark stormed inside. His face was red, his breathing uneven, his movements sharp as if he had been holding anger in his fists all day. Their daughter Lily froze mid-step at the top of the stairs, and little Noah clung to the railing, wide-eyed. Mark didn't look at them. He didn't look at Anna either. He brushed past all three of them like they were ghosts. The intensity of his entrance felt like a warning, one Anna didn't know how to read yet. She pulled the children gently back. "Go to your room, okay? I'll see what's wrong." Once the kids disappeared upstairs, the house fell into an uneasy quiet. The storm faded into a low, confusing hum. Anna found Mark in the living room, sitting on the edge of the couch. He held his head in his hands. His phone sat beside him, screen down, like it was hiding its own secrets. She stepped cautiously toward him. "Mark, what happened?" He exhaled sharply. "Nothing. Work stuff." But his body said otherwise. His shoulders were tense. His eyes avoided hers. His fingers tapped the couch cushion in a nervous rhythm. For the past month, these signs had slowly started showing up. Pieces of a puzzle she didn't want to put together. He had begun taking more work trips, even though his job as a regional sales manager rarely required travel before. He snapped about money more often, even though their lifestyle hadn't changed. One moment warm, the next distant. And he snapped over the smallest things, forgotten keys, noisy children, simple questions. And then there was his phone, the device he used to leave in plain sight, now never left his hand. He kept it on silent. He typed quickly, screen angled away. He even took it with him to the bathroom. Anna tried to believe it was just stress, workload, pressure, tiredness, something normal, something fixable. But the changes were too many and too sudden. She sat beside him gently. "Is there anything I can do?" "No," he muttered, standing abruptly. "I just need space." He grabbed his phone and walked out of the room, leaving Anna staring at the empty space he'd been sitting in. The living room felt colder after he left, like the warmth of their marriage had slipped out with him. Slowly, reflection filled the quiet. She thought of how he used to be, how he laughed easily, how he held her hand without thinking, how he once told her on their wedding night, "I hate men who cheat. I'd never do that to my family." Never. The memory played in her mind like an old film, soft, bright, full of promises. Back then, she had believed every word. But now, the man walking through their home felt like a stranger wearing Mark's face. Her breath shook as she tried to calm herself. She didn't want to accuse him of anything. She didn't want to imagine the worst. She wanted to protect her children and keep the peace. Still, something inside her, something quiet but sharp, kept whispering, "Something isn't right." That night, long after she tucked the children into bed, Anna stepped into the hallway to check if Mark locked the front door. She stopped halfway. Mark's voice echoed softly from around the corner. He was whispering. She moved closer, careful not to make a sound. Mark stood near the dark hallway window, phone pressed to his ear, voice lower than she had ever heard it. "Yeah, I miss you too," he whispered. "I'll see you soon, Lana." Anna's entire body went still. The name cut through her like a blade, gentle at first but deep enough to reach her bones. Lana. A woman's name, a name she had never heard before in his stories about work. Her breath hitched, too loud in her own ears. She stepped back, gripping the wall for balance. When Mark hung up and turned, she forced herself to stand straight. He spotted her in the dim hallway. "Hey, didn't know you were awake." He gave her a too casual smile. "Just talking to a coworker about a project. Nothing big." A smooth lie, a quick lie, a practiced lie. He kissed her forehead lightly and walked past her, as if the world had not just tilted beneath her feet. Anna stared into the darkness he left behind, heart trembling, mind racing with questions she was suddenly afraid to answer. And as she returned to the bedroom, one thought whispered quietly in her chest. If a name could shake her this deeply, what would tomorrow reveal? The beep of the grocery scanner sounded sharp and final, like a warning shot. Anna stood at the checkout counter with 2 bags of basic groceries: bread, milk, eggs, fruit, and a small snack for each of her children. Lily and Noah stood beside her, quiet and patient, unaware that their mother's stomach was already tightening with worry. The cashier, a young woman with kind eyes, smiled politely. "That'll be $34.18. Anna slid her debit card through the reader. It was the everyday card tied to Mark's salary account, the one she always used for groceries. Declined. The sound was loud in her ears, like a slap. She frowned gently, trying to hide her confusion. "Let me try another one." She reached for the second card, the emergency credit card Mark had added her name to, just in case. She tried again. Declined. The cashier's smile faded, replaced by a soft look of pity that cut deeper than the beep itself. People in line shifted impatiently. Her cheeks warmed. "There must be a mistake. Could you try one more time?" The cashier nodded, but her expression said she already knew the result. Declined. Anna's breath trembled. Her children looked up at her, sensing the tension. "Mama," Noah whispered, tugging her sleeve. "It's okay," she said softly, forcing a calm smile. "Everything's okay." But it wasn't. She paid with the few bills she had in her purse, barely enough to cover the basics. She apologized to the cashier and hurried out, gripping the grocery bags in her children's hands as if holding on to them would keep her steady. Her heart pounded as she loaded the bags into the car. Both cards were linked to accounts Mark controlled online. If they were canceled, he had done it. There was no reason they should be empty. She didn't spend money on anything unnecessary. Their life was simple, and her inheritance. That money wasn't even in any of these accounts. It sat in investment structures and shares under legal lock until she signed the activation documents. Her day-to-day life still depended on Mark's income and their modest savings. So the only person who could change their daily finances this suddenly was Mark. A sharp fear hit her chest. She sat in the driver's seat, pulled out her phone, and dialed her husband. He answered on the third ring, his voice flat. "What?" "Mark, all my cards were declined. The grocery card, the backup credit card. Did something happen?" Silence, a cold kind. Then, "I canceled them." She blinked, stunned. "You? What? Why?" "You spend too much," he said, voice clipped. "Learn to budget." Her grip on the phone weakened. "Mark, I bought groceries for the kids. They need to eat." "Well, figure it out. I'm busy." The line went dead. Anna stared at the screen, unable to breathe for a moment. Not because of the canceled cards, but because the man who once promised to protect their family had cut her ability to feed their children without a single ounce of care. She looked into the rearview mirror. Lily and Noah were whispering to each other, trying to make sense of why Mommy looked so pale. Anna blinked back tears and forced a smile. "Let's go home." The house felt colder when they walked in. Anna placed the small grocery bags on the counter and opened the fridge. The light flickered dimly, revealing almost nothing inside. Half a bottle of ketchup, old leftovers, and a single apple. Her throat tightened. "Mama," Lily said softly, "is dinner going to be late?" Anna knelt down, brushing her daughter's hair gently. "No, sweetheart, everything's okay." A lie to protect them. She made simple sandwiches, cutting them into little shapes to hide how plain they were. She laughed with them, listened to their stories, wiped crumbs from Noah's chin. But behind every smile was fear. How long had Mark been planning this? Why hadn't he talked to her? Why did he sound so cold? It didn't feel like ordinary stress anymore. It felt like something else, something darker. A decision made long before the beep of that grocery scanner. After dinner, she tucked their children into bed, humming softly until their eyes closed. Lily hugged her tightly. Noah kissed her cheek. When she stepped into the hallway, exhaustion pulled at her bones. That was when she heard it, a faint buzz. Mark's phone, left carelessly on the dining table, lit up in the darkness. The screen was locked, but the notification preview glowed bright. Anna walked over, instinct guiding her even though she didn't want to see. A new message. "The dealership says the car will be ready tomorrow." Her stomach dropped. A car? For who? And why would he be arranging a car with someone sending kiss emojis? On the same day he canceled her cards and left their fridge nearly empty? Her mind spun with questions she didn't want answers to. She backed away slowly, heart pounding. Something was very wrong, and whatever the truth was, it was coming. In the silence of the hallway, her father's voice echoed softly in her memory. People reveal who they really are when they think you aren't watching. And for the first time, Anna felt the beginning of a terrifying truth pressing against the edge of her world. The sound of running water exploded through the bathroom door. Violent, rushed, almost panicked. Anna froze in the hallway, her hand still hovering near the spot where Mark's phone had buzzed earlier. He had come home 5 minutes ago, dropped his keys on the table, kissed her forehead without looking at her, and walked straight into the shower. No greeting, no explanation, no glance at the children. Now the water blasted so loudly it felt like he was trying to drown something. Fear, guilt, or evidence she couldn't yet see. Her pulse raced. The message from the dealership still echoed in her mind. The dealership says the car will be ready tomorrow. A smiley face, a flirty tone, a secret plan. Her stomach twisted. Her husband, Mark Collins, 37, the man she once trusted fully, had canceled their cards, left their fridge almost empty, and was arranging a car with someone who wasn't her. Someone who sent him playful emojis. Someone who had access to him in ways she no longer did. Intensity tightened her chest as she stared at the locked bathroom door. Slowly her breathing eased as reflection crept in. She needed to know more, not to start a fight, but to understand the truth before it destroyed her. Anna moved to their bedroom, her mind replaying the last year with a painful clarity she had never wanted to face. Mark had changed gradually, not suddenly. He used to kiss her with warmth. He used to hold her close. He used to tell her she was his piece. But slowly, piece by piece, those gestures faded. First, the long work trips, then the cold responses, the quick lies, the whispered phone calls, the anger over nothing, the walking out in the middle of conversations, the new clothes she never bought for him, the cologne she didn't recognize, the sudden money problems that never matched their simple bills. She had explained it all away: stress, pressure, exhaustion. She tried to stay gentle for their 2 children, Lily and Noah. She tried to give Mark the peace he once gave her. But now, everything pointed somewhere she had never wanted to go. Cheating, and worse. He was using money meant for their children to fund it. Logic settled painfully in her chest. His sudden need to control finances, his anger, his secrecy, his insistence that she learn to budget, his coldness at the grocery store phone call, his willingness to let his own children go hungry. This wasn't stress. This was betrayal. She felt her father's lessons echo in her chest. Judge people by who they are when they think no one is watching. Now she was watching. The bathroom door creaked open. Mark stepped out, towel wrapped around his waist, scrolling through his phone instantly, checking, deleting, hiding. He had grabbed it from the table the moment he left the shower, as if afraid of leaving it out of his reach again. Anna stood near the dresser, steady but breaking inside. "You came home early," she said softly, testing his reaction. He barely glanced at her. "Yeah, got things to do." "Like the dealership?" she asked gently. His head snapped up. His eyes darted too quickly. "What dealership?" "The message on your phone," she replied, "about the car being ready tomorrow." His jaw tightened before he forced a laugh. "Oh, that? It's work stuff. A company demo car. You misunderstood." "Work with hearts and kiss emojis?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. He stiffened. "Anna, don't start. You always overreact. It's a coworker. She jokes a lot." A coworker. That was the lie he chose. Anna looked at him, not with anger, but with a pain so deep it silenced her. Mark walked past her, mumbling excuses she didn't believe. He put on a clean shirt, grabbed his wallet, and headed for the door. "You're leaving?" she asked. "Yeah, meeting. Don't wait up." He left before she could say another word. The house grew silent, heavy like a storm that refused to break. Anna walked into the hallway and sat on the floor near the children's bedroom door. She listened to their quiet breathing, letting it ground her, keep her from falling apart. Her heart ached for them more than for herself. She needed to protect them. She needed to stay steady. She needed to know the full truth. Her hand drifted to her pocket, closing around the small golden key, the one that opened the locked drawer with her father's documents. She wasn't ready to use it. Not yet. But something inside her whispered that soon, she might have no choice. As she stood, Mark's cloud backup, still automatically syncing to their shared tablet on the bedside table, buzzed once more. A new message preview flashed across the screen. This time, the first line showed something that made her blood turn cold. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." And the car. And with that message, the final thread of her illusions began to unravel. The house shook with the force of the front door slamming. Anna jumped, her breath caught in her throat. Mark had returned. She heard his heavy steps stumble through the hallway, followed by the thud of something hitting the wall. Maybe his bag or maybe his anger. His voice echoed faintly, muttering curses under his breath, sharp and careless. The children were asleep. She couldn't let him wake them. She took a step toward the hallway, but before she could reach it, she saw him pass by. The shadow of a man she once loved. His shirt was wrinkled. His eyes were cold. His phone was in his hand, lighting up again with another message she dared not read. He didn't look at her, didn't speak to her, didn't even pause. He went straight to the bedroom, shut the door, and locked it. Intensity pulsed around her like a warning siren. Her hands shook. Then, silence. A deep, dangerous silence that said everything she didn't want to hear. Slowly, reflection settled over her like a heavy blanket. She stepped into the small home office and lowered herself into the chair near the old wooden drawer. The one she had been avoiding for years. She reached for her keyring, her fingers trembling around the small golden key. The same key that had always scared her. The same key that connected her to a life she tried to leave untouched. Tonight she couldn't ignore it anymore. Because now she wasn't just a hurt wife. She was a mother who needed answers. A woman pushed beyond fear. She inserted the key and turned it. The click sounded like the start of something irreversible. Inside the drawer lay a stack of documents neatly tied with a ribbon. Her father's handwriting appeared on tab labels. Dates, bank names, account structures, board designations. She knew these papers were powerful, but she had pushed them away, believing she would never need them. And at the top was the sealed envelope Mr. Grant had given her years ago, her father's last letter. Beside it was a thin packet labeled Final Activation Documents. A small card from her lawyer rested on top. "Whenever you are ready, we can complete this," it read. Her throat tightened as she lifted the envelope. She remembered her father's gentle voice, the way he always spoke with calm certainty. Her fingers traced the edge of the seal. She opened it. Her father's handwriting flowed smoothly across the page, filled with the warmth she missed every day. "My Anna, if someone ever tries to take advantage of you, you will not need to fight back. Your position will do it for you." A tear slid down her cheek. She wasn't reading a warning anymore. She was reading prophecy. Her father had known what the world could be like. He had known the danger of people who smile with love but hide selfish intentions. He had taught her gently but firmly how to protect herself without ever raising her voice. Back then, she didn't understand. Now she did. She sat still, the letter trembling in her hands, the truth settling deep into her heart. She wasn't powerless. She wasn't trapped. She wasn't at the mercy of Mark's cruelty, nor his secrets, nor the mystery of this woman named Lana. She had the legal right. She had the financial strength. She had the authority over the very bank her husband depended on. Her gaze shifted to the packet marked Final Activation Documents. Her father's shares, her board rights, her majority stake in the regional bank chain. She inhaled deeply. This wasn't weakness. This was clarity. This was the moment her heart stepped out of fear and into truth. She reached for her phone with unsteady fingers and typed a short message to Mr. Grant. "I'm ready to activate everything. I need your help. It's urgent." She hit send. A few seconds later, his reply arrived. "I'll arrange an emergency meeting first thing in the morning. We'll protect you and the children. Keep everything safe tonight." She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the calm in his words steady her. But before she could gather the documents or fully steady her breathing, a sound from down the hallway made her freeze. A muffled voice. Mark's voice, talking softly through his locked bedroom door. She stepped closer, her heart loud in her ears. Words slipped out clearly through the thin wood. "Lana, don't worry. Tomorrow we'll fix everything." The drawer behind her remained open, her father's letter resting in her hand as the final pieces of betrayal locked into place. And in the quiet darkness, one thought cut through her chest like a blade. Tomorrow. Something was coming. The printer spat out papers so fast the machine shook. Anna stood over it with both hands braced on the desk, her breath unsteady, her heart racing. Line after line of bank statements poured out. Transactions she never approved, withdrawals she never knew about, expenses that didn't belong to her family. Every page was another slice of truth, and every truth cut deeper than the one before. The loud churn of the printer felt like thunder in the small home office. But Anna didn't flinch. She collected the warm papers, stacking them with a sharp, controlled precision. Intensity filled the room. This was the moment she stopped hoping Mark would explain himself. This was the moment she stopped giving excuses for his cruelty. This was when the fight turned quiet and real. Slowly, gravity settled onto her shoulders. After sending the message to Mr. Grant, Anna had not slept. The night deepened around her, but she stayed awake, moving with quiet purpose. The children slept in their room, safe for now. Mark had gone out again after his call with Lana, saying he needed air, leaving his side of the bed cold and empty. He hadn't noticed that their shared tablet on the bedside table still backed up his phone. Anna used her own login to access their online banking, something she rarely did, because Mark always insisted he'd handle everything. Now she wished she had looked sooner. The first statements made her stomach twist. The joint savings account, 20 years of careful budgeting and saving, had been drained in weeks. Large transfers went out to an account in Mark's name only. From there, payments to the car dealership appeared. Deposits labeled holding fee. The money that was supposed to be their safety net had become fuel for his betrayal. She printed every page. Next, she opened the cloud backup linked to the tablet. Messages synced one after another. Her chest tightened as she searched for a name she already knew. Lana. The thread of conversations between them was long. The messages weren't innocent. They were intimate. They were full of promises he no longer made to her. She took screenshots, saving every line that showed intent. "I can't wait till it's just us. She doesn't understand me like you do. The car will be ready tomorrow. You'll love it." She saved every screenshot. Then came something worse. An audio file blinked in the backup, a voice note he had sent to Lana days earlier. With shaking hands, Anna pressed play. Mark's voice filled the room, rough and careless. "I'll starve them before I let her cost me money. She'll learn her place." Anna's hand covered her mouth. Her legs weakened, collapsing her into the chair. The weight of the betrayal crushed through her chest. Not just infidelity, not just deception, but intentional harm. She saved the audio. Next came the voicemail. Lana's voice, light and mocking, automatically backed up from his phone. Why does he even stay with her? Honestly, he deserves better. Tomorrow you'll have the car, and then he won't need to hide anymore. Anna's breath hitched, not from jealousy, but from the cruelty. She saved the voicemail. The night was silent except for the soft hum of the printer and the beating of her heart. Then her phone vibrated. A new email from Mr. Grant. "Anna, I've spoken with the bank's president and legal team. If you sign the activation documents this morning, your authority as majority shareholder will be active immediately. We will also flag your accounts for suspected financial abuse and reverse any improper transfers under bank policy." She looked at the packet on her desk. The final activation documents she had ignored for years. With a steadying breath, she signed each page. Her signature turned hidden power into active authority. Her father's letter lay open beside the documents. His words held her heart steady. "You will not need to fight back. Your position will do it for you." She believed him now. Before sunrise, she had scanned the signed documents and sent them to Mr. Grant. He confirmed an emergency board call and a separate internal action. The joint account flagged, the transfer to Mark's solo account disputed, and the payment to the dealership frozen pending investigation. "Anna," he wrote, "emotions ruin strategy. Stay calm. Let the facts speak. We will also notify the dealership that the funds are under dispute. They will not be able to release the vehicle legally. The house settled into early morning quiet. The children slept peacefully. Mark was still out, working late, unaware his lies were unraveling, thread by thread. Anna gathered all the printed statements, screenshots, audio files, and voicemails into a single folder. Her hands didn't shake anymore. Her heart didn't race. She was calm, steady, anchored by purpose. She walked to the locked drawer, placed the folder inside beside her father's documents, and closed it gently. Her reflection in the glass door looked different. Still soft, still kind, but no longer naive. As she turned off the office light, her phone buzzed again. A new message from Mr. Grant. "Meet me outside the dealership tomorrow morning. You don't have to be seen. Just be there if you want to watch how this ends." She didn't know exactly what would happen there, but she knew one thing for certain. It would change everything. The roar of the engine sliced through the quiet morning like a blade. Mark Collins burst out of the glass doors of the dealership, practically dragging Lana by the wrist. His face was glowing with pride. Too bright, too eager, like a man who believed he had finally won something. Lana, a woman in her early 30s with sharp features and high-maintenance confidence, squealed with excitement the moment she saw it. A luxury car, silver, custom interior, the kind of car Anna would never buy, even with her hidden wealth. "Mark!" Lana gasped, covering her mouth. "You actually bought it!" Mark threw his arms wide as if he were presenting a masterpiece. "I told you, baby. I take care of my woman." He said it loudly, loud enough for the dealership staff to hear, loud enough to stroke his own ego, loud enough to drown the guilt he refused to face. He strutted toward the car, touching the hood like it was a trophy. He held out his phone, angling for photos. "Take a picture of me, babe," he said with a grin. Lana obeyed, posing him like he was some kind of celebrity. He smiled wider than he had smiled in months. Not for his wife, not for his children, but for another woman and a car he bought with stolen marital funds. Across the street, inside a parked car with tinted windows, Anna sat with Mr. Grant. She watched quietly, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her lawyer had reminded her, "You don't need to step out. You've already acted. Let procedures work." She stayed silent. Then the sound hit. Not a roar, not a cheer, but the slicing command of authority. "Mr. Collins, step away from the vehicle." Mark froze mid-smile. Two uniformed officers and two officials in suits with bank badges approached him across the dealership parking lot. Their faces were firm, professional, unreadable. Lana blinked. Mark? What's happening?" Mark tried to laugh it off. "Probably a mistake. Officers, what's the problem?" One of the bank officials stepped forward. His identification card reflected the sunlight. "Mr. Mark Collins, the payment for this vehicle has been flagged by our fraud and compliance team." "Flagged?" Mark scoffed. "I made the payment yesterday." "With marital funds from a joint account," the official replied calmly, "which has now been reported by your spouse as being used without her consent. Under bank policy and pending investigation, the payment is reversed. Legally, the dealership cannot release this vehicle to you." Mark's face drained of color. Even Lana's lips fell open in shock. "What? No. No, there has to be a mistake," Mark shouted, stepping between them and the car. "I'm the one who earns the money. I transferred it." The officer shook his head. "The joint savings account you emptied is now under dispute. Until the investigation is complete, those funds are frozen, and this vehicle belongs to the dealership, not you." Lana's breath hitched. "Mark, you said you had your own money." Mark whipped his head toward her, panic spreading like wildfire. I do. This isn't. There must be an error." The second bank official lifted a clipboard. "The co-owner of the account, your wife, filed a formal complaint for financial abuse and unauthorized use of shared funds. We are obligated to protect her rights." Anna watched from the car, her jaw tight but her eyes dry. She didn't enjoy his humiliation. She simply needed the truth exposed. Mark's mouth fell open. His pride cracked. My wife?" he sputtered. She doesn't handle our finances. I do." "Regardless," the official replied, "she is the joint owner, and she has rights." One officer stepped around him, opened the car door, and spoke to the dealership manager standing nearby. "We'll leave the car with you. The sale is void until payment is lawfully resolved." The manager nodded stiffly, clearly unhappy but bound by policy. Mark tried to grab the driver's door handle, but the other officer lifted a hand sharply. "Step back, sir. This isn't your vehicle." The keys never reached his hand. The car, the gift meant to impress his mistress, sat still, untouched, out of his reach. Lana stepped backward, her face twisting in confusion, fear and disappointment all at once. "Mark, why is your wife involved?" she whispered, voice trembling. "You told me things were almost over with her." Mark didn't answer. He couldn't, because for the first time he realized what Anna had done. She had moved quietly, legally, with precision that only someone with real power could use. The dealership staff watched from the windows. Neighbors driving by slowed down, staring. Lana covered her mouth, humiliated. Mark stood frozen in the sunlight, his world tilting, unraveling, splitting at the seams. "Mark!" Lana whispered again, stepping away from him. Her heels clicked back on the pavement. "Mark, what did you do?" He stared at her, his mouth opening. But no sound came out, because the truth was simple. He didn't know how deep the trouble went. He didn't know how much power Anna held. He didn't know his greatest downfall had already begun. Across the street, Anna closed her eyes for a moment, then looked down at her phone. As Lana walked away, Mark's phone buzzed loudly in his pocket. A new message. The preview line showed 4 words and a name that made his blood run cold. "Anna, we need to talk." Mark hit the bank doors so hard they flew open. "Where is the manager?" he shouted, his face burning red, his voice echoing across the marble floors. Customers turned. Tellers stiffened. A security guard near the desk straightened instantly. Mark charged toward the counter, slamming his palm down. "My accounts are frozen. My money is gone. I want answers now." His rage cracked through the entire building. 2 security guards approached quickly. "Sir, please lower your voice." Mark didn't even look at them. "I said I want the manager." From behind the counter, a woman in a navy suit lifted a hand, signaling for calm. "Mr. Collins, we've been expecting you. Please follow us." Expecting him. The words hit him strangely. He followed the guards through a side hallway, not toward customer offices, but toward the executive wing. A wing he had never seen before. His heart pounded faster, not from fear, but from the humiliation he felt growing inside him. They reached a tall double door. One guard opened it. "Mr. Collins," he announced, "you may enter." Mark stepped inside and froze. Anna sat at the long conference table, not crying, not shaking, not weak, calm, still, composed. Her hands rested gently on a stack of documents. Her eyes held no anger, just a quiet power he had never noticed until now. Across from her sat the bank president, Mr. Coleman, a man in his early 60s with silver hair and a firm posture. 2 board members sat beside him. Mr. Grant, her lawyer, was there too, his expression professional. Mark's stomach twisted. "What is this?" he demanded. "Anna, what are you doing here?" Mr. Coleman cleared his throat. "Mr. Collins, please sit." Mark refused. "No, I want—" "Sit," Mr. Coleman repeated, his tone sharp with authority. Something in that voice made Mark obey. He dropped into the chair opposite Anna, confused, irritated, sweating. Mr. Coleman folded his hands. "Your accounts weren't frozen by mistake, Mr. Collins. They were frozen by authorization." "Whose authorization?" Mark snapped. Mr. Coleman nodded toward Anna. "Mrs. Anna Harding Collins. As of this morning, she is the activated majority shareholder of this bank and an official board member." Silence crashed over the room. Mark blinked, then blinked again, then shook his head in disbelief. "What? No, Anna's not. She can't. She doesn't have that kind of—" Anna opened a folder slowly, her movements calm but final. Inside were papers he had never seen, documents with her father's name, ownership forms, transfer agreements, board acknowledgments, copies of the activation she signed that very morning. She finally spoke, her voice soft but firm. "I asked the bank to review our accounts. The withdrawals you made from our joint savings, moving everything into your sole account to fund a car for your mistress, were unauthorized." Mark's face turned pale. "That's not fraud. I'm your husband. I have rights to our money. No, Mr. Coleman said, his tone cutting cleanly. You have rights to shared funds used responsibly, not to drain accounts for personal gifts to another woman while your children's basic needs are neglected. One of the board members slid a summary sheet forward. The bank has documented your transfers, the timing of the card cancellations, and the pattern of behavior consistent with financial abuse, she added calmly. For now, the disputed funds remain frozen. Any release will be decided by the court. Mark slammed his fist on the table. I was stressed. I was trying to fix things. She was distant. Anna didn't flinch. She reached into her folder and pulled out a second stack. Screenshots, bank statements, transcriptions of audio files. She placed them neatly on the table for her lawyer and the bank president to see. Messages with Lana, plans for the car. The voice note where he said he'd starve them. The voicemail of Lana laughing about his wife. Anna spoke, still calm. I gave you trust. I gave you a family. But you used your position to starve your own children and fund your affair. The board members exchanged glances of disapproval. Mark's chest heaved. Why didn't you tell me about this money? About the bank? Why would you hide something so big from your own husband? She met his eyes without anger, only truth. Because I wanted a life built on love, not wealth. And I needed to know if the man I married valued me, or what he could take from me. Mark sank back into his chair, stunned. For the first time, he saw the emptiness in his own actions. He realized the only person who ever truly cared about him was the one he betrayed. Anna slid a slim second folder across the table. The sound echoed like a closing door. Mark opened it with trembling hands. Divorce papers. His breath caught in his throat. These have already been filed, Mr. Grant said quietly. Today, we only needed to notify the bank and confirm that all joint accounts will remain protected until the court finalizes the distribution. Mark stared at the signature line, his own name printed beneath. Mr. Coleman added quietly, Mr. Collins, this meeting is about protecting the institution and your family's basic security. But understand this, he leaned forward. This is only the beginning. The court will decide the rest. A chill ran through Mark's spine, because he suddenly understood. Something worse was coming next. The courtroom echoed with the heavy slam of the judge's gavel. Order in the court! Mark jolted upright, panic flashing in his eyes. He stood beside his lawyer, sweating, desperate, and shaking with the fear of a man who finally understood the price of his choices. Weeks had passed since the bank meeting. His accounts remained frozen. His reputation at work had shattered. The repossession scene at the dealership had spread quietly through whispers and messages. The life he built on lies had begun to crumble in public. Beside him sat Lana, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes cold. She didn't offer comfort. She didn't look at him. She seemed ready to walk away the moment things became inconvenient. Across the aisle sat Anna, calm, steady, unbroken. Her lawyer, Mr. Grant, organized their files neatly, each piece of evidence resting inside. Screenshots, voicemails, bank statements, and the video evidence and audio recordings that revealed everything about Mark's intentions. Anna didn't look at Mark. She focused only on the truth. The judge, a stern woman in her late 50s, flipped through documents with sharp precision. All evidence has been reviewed, she announced, including the financial abuse, the intentional cancellation of access cards, the unauthorized withdrawal of marital funds, and the recordings submitted. Mark's face blanched. And regarding custody, the judge continued, the court prioritizes the safety and stability of the children. Mark swallowed. He knew what was coming even before the words hit. This court grants full physical custody to Mrs. Anna Collins, the judge said clearly. Mr. Collins, your access to the children will be limited to supervised visitation until further notice, subject to review when you can demonstrate consistent, responsible behavior. A faint gasp escaped Lana. Mark staggered as if struck. The judge's voice carried no pity. Your behavior showed not only infidelity, but a willingness to weaponize money against your own family. This court will not risk placing the children in an unstable or unsafe environment. Mark tried to speak. But Your Honor, Sit down, Mr. Collins. He dropped into his seat, shoulders collapsing. Next came the financial judgment, You are ordered to repay all funds withdrawn improperly from the joint savings account, the judge said. Additionally, due to the fraudulent attempt to purchase a vehicle using marital assets, you must reimburse all associated penalties and fees. Mark's jaw clenched. I don't have that kind of money. The judge didn't blink. That is a consequence of your actions, she replied. Your obligations stand whether or not your finances are comfortable. The bank has already placed restrictions to prevent further misuse. She turned a page. Furthermore, based on the letter submitted by your former employer, the court notes that your position has been terminated due to misconduct and reputational damage connected to this case. The words struck him like stones. Unemployed, broke, exposed, stripped of everything he tried to hide behind. He turned to Lana, silently begging for support. She stood up. She smoothed her dress. She looked at him with boredom, not love. I can't deal with this, she said simply. Call me when your life isn't a disaster. She walked out without looking back. Mark stared after her, mouth open, hopelessness swallowing him whole. He was alone now, truly alone. Slowly the courtroom emptied. Anna rose, gathered her documents with careful hands, and stepped outside with Mr. Grant. Lily and Noah waited with a trusted family friend nearby. When they saw her, they ran forward, wrapping themselves around her waist with joy and comfort. She knelt to their level, holding them close as tears filled her eyes. Not from pain, but from relief. They were safe now. She stood and nodded gratefully at Mr. Grant. Thank you for guiding me. You guided yourself, he replied softly. Your father would be proud. Her heart warmed, because every step she had taken, every silent decision, every moment of dignity, every piece of evidence, every calm action, all flowed from the lessons her father taught her. Her father's voice echoed one final time in her mind. When you see someone's true character, protect yourself without fear. And she had. Later that evening, Anna unlocked the door to a new home. Not big, not fancy, not luxurious, but peaceful. Safe. The kind of home where children grow with laughter, not fear. She could have lived in a mansion now. As majority owner of the regional bank chain, her financial security was unquestionable. But she chose this small, quiet house on purpose, because she wanted her children to remember love, not display. Safety, not status. Lily and Noah ran through the small living room, exploring, giggling. Anna watched them with a soft, grateful smile. She placed the last box on the counter, inhaling deeply as quiet settled around her. For the first time in years, she felt free. She had started taking a quiet role at the bank, attending board meetings, directing policy to protect families from the kind of abuse she had faced. She didn't flaunt her power. She simply used it where it mattered. She stepped outside to the small porch, letting the evening breeze touch her face. She looked at the sky with calm strength. In a gentle voice, almost like a closing reflection to herself, she whispered, I didn't destroy him. I simply stepped out of the way and let his choices catch up. She closed the door behind her, the future waiting on the other side like a new sunrise. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Like, share, and comment on the lessons you've learned. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. See you in my next video.